Welcome everyone. My name is Nicole and I'm one of the dietitians at the Walker Cancer Center. During the second part of the breast cancer survivorship class, we are going to focus on some of the nutrition recommendations now that you've completed treatment. It's important to note that there is no one food that can protect you against cancer. Rather, research shows that consuming a variety of plant-based foods, such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and others, can help lower your risk for many types of cancer. I also just want to mention that it's important to remember that nutrition is a science, and just like any other science, there is always new research happening. And over time, with more research and evidence, sometimes recommendations can change. So today, we're going to look at what the current recommendations are when it comes to eating well for cancer prevention. The American Institute for Cancer Research and World Cancer Research Fund are made up of experts who review studies and from this create a list of recommendations for the public. Today, we're going to discuss their 10 recommendations for cancer prevention and preventing reoccurrence. This will include talking about recommendations regarding weight, the importance of watching sugar and salt. We'll talk about what we mean when we say eat mostly plant-based foods and limit red and processed meats. We'll also review recommendations around alcohol consumption and the use of supplements. Recommendations numbers 9 and 10 were added more recently. As you can see, they suggest that cancer survivors follow these same guidelines as the general population when it comes to preventing new cancer or cancer reoccurrence. And lastly, number 10 recommends that we breastfeed exclusively for 6 months. There is evidence to show that breastfeeding likely protects against breast cancer, and that's likely due to the hormonal changes that happen in our body while we're breastfeeding. So this may no longer apply to some of us based on our stage in life. However, it can still be important information for you to share with other women in your family, like daughters or granddaughters. So today we're very lucky to live in a time where we have such quick and easy access to information via the internet. However, it is important to note that not all the information that we read online is considered reliable, and that includes information related to nutrition and diet as well. So it's important for us to question where information is coming from. As health professionals, when we make recommendations, we are basing these off of the highest quality studies called systematic reviews or meta-analyses, which essentially are studies that contain information from many different areas and not just one study alone. The bottom of this pyramid is the starting point for research. It's the lowest quality. And then as you move up the pyramid to the top, you can see the gold standard for research studies. When you're reading information online, it's important that you ask yourself questions like, what type of study was this? Was it conducted in animals or humans? Was it just someone's personal opinion or experience? How many people were in the study? Dr. Oz and other celebrities can sometimes be guilty of promoting or selling different nutrition products or diets. But again, you have to ask yourself, what is their education like in this area? And do they have high quality research to support what they are recommending? So let's start by taking a closer look at these 10 recommendations for cancer prevention. The first one we're going to talk about is what it means to maintain a healthy body weight. We know that being overweight is linked to postmenopausal breast cancers. Recent research tells us that achieving and maintaining a healthy weight might be one of the most important ways for women to improve survival and reduce their reoccurrence of breast cancer. Many of us are familiar with using BMI or body mass index to assess our body size. Body mass index is essentially a ratio of our height to our weight. However, BMI doesn't take into account body composition, so it doesn't look at fat mass versus fat-free mass like muscle, and it doesn't look at where our weight is distributed in our bodies. So we know that carrying excess weight around our abdominal area can put us at greater risk of chronic disease. So that's why we can also use a waist circumference measure in addition to BMI. Women ideally should aim to achieve a waist circumference of 35 inches or 88 centimeters or less. When you're taking waist measure, you want to lift up the edges of your shirt so that your waist is exposed. You want to stand with your legs about shoulder width apart, and then using your hand, feel for the top of your hip bone. Align the bottom edge of that measuring tape with the top of your hip bone, and just make sure that you're not pressing the tape measure in too tightly. An important part of weight management includes portion control. Canada's new food guide can help to illustrate what a healthy plate should look like. They recommend that half your plate should be filled with fruits or vegetables, a quarter whole grains, and the other quarter a protein source. The Mediterranean diet and DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension and is often used to help control high blood pressure, are two healthy eating patterns. At the end of this presentation, we have a resource slide with links to websites where you can access more information about these healthy eating patterns if you're interested. There are also apps or websites that you can go to help track your intake, kind of like an electronic food record. So some examples are eTracker and MyFitnessPal. Research does show that people who track their intake tend to be more successful with weight loss. And I think that's because it just helps us to become more aware of when we're eating, what we're eating, and also how much we're eating. If you're looking for further support when it comes to weight management, there are several options available in the community. There are some dietitians who work at doctor's offices, so you can check with yours to see if this service is available. There are also dietitians that you can see one-on-one through Zayers or through private practice. In terms of group programs, so Craving Change is a 6-week group program that's offered by some dietitians who work at doctor's offices. So you could search online to see if any of these programs are being run locally. And this group focuses on changing your relationship with food. So it helps you to understand why you eat the way that you do. And it's the idea that if you can understand and change your thinking, then this can ultimately help to change your eating. Another group, Healthy You, is also run by some doctor's offices, and it focuses on recommendations for a healthy lifestyle. So things like physical activity, mindfulness, there's typically a grocery store tour, and they talk about portions. Lastly is the Wharton Clinic for Weight Management, but to go here, there is certain criteria that you have to meet, and you do need a doctor's referral. The next recommendation regarding physical activity was already discussed by the nurse in the first part of the class, so we're going to move on to talking about limiting foods and drinks that promote weight gain and limit salt. So energy-dense foods tend to be high in calories and fat and low in fiber and water, which essentially means that they have little nutritional value and can promote weight gain. So some examples of energy-dense foods include things like chips, cookies, fried foods, muffins and donuts, white bread, desserts, certain sugary cereals or high-fat cereals, and again, certain granola bars. Some drinks can also be high in added sugars, fat, and calories, and just like the foods we saw on the previous slide, they provide little nutritional benefit and can also lead to weight gain. So some of these examples include pop, flavored drinks like fruit punches, fruit cocktails, iced tea, sports and energy drinks, milkshakes, and a lot of our specialty drinks like iced cappuccinos or flavored coffee and tea beverages that have whipped topping or syrups in them. Instead, we want to try to choose fluids like water, and if we don't like the taste of it on its own, we can try to naturally sweeten it with fruit or cucumber, ginger, mint, and so on. Coffee or tea can also be okay as long as you're using little or no added sugar and trying to use milk instead of cream. Low-fat milk, so ideally 2% or less, and plain soy beverage. Almond, cashew, and rice milk can also be good alternatives if you don't drink milk. However, it's important to make sure that these items are fortified with vitamin D and calcium. So usually this would be written somewhere on the carton, or if you check under the nutrition facts table, you would see a percentage beside calcium and vitamin D. You want to make sure that you shake these beverages before drinking them because sometimes these vitamins and minerals can stick to the sides of the container. It's also important to know that these milk alternatives are not a significant source of protein, so you need to make sure that you're getting protein from other sources in your diet. We're going to take a few minutes now to talk about reading labels. Given the number of pre-packaged foods available to us, it's very important that we understand how to properly read and interpret the information on these labels. The different kinds of nutrition information found on food labels are the nutrition facts, the ingredient list, nutrition claims, and health claims. But only the first two, so nutrition facts and the ingredient list, are actually mandatory in Canada. So the nutrition facts table appears on food labels with a consistent look, making it easy to find and easy to read. The nutrition facts table includes the specific amount of food on which all nutrient information is based, so in other words, the serving size. It includes calories and 13 core nutrients, the actual amount of a nutrient in grams or milligrams, as well as the percent daily value. So the first step of label reading is to look at the serving size. So this amount is determined by the food manufacturer, so it's not actually telling you how much you should be eating. It's just telling you that in that amount, this is how much of each nutrient you'll be getting. So if you're planning to have more or less than the amount that they list, then that requires you to do a little bit of math to figure out how that'll change the amount of fat, sugar, fiber, and so on. Also, before comparing products, so for example, 2 types of bread, it's important to make sure that the serving sizes are the same, otherwise you can't directly compare the nutrients. The second step is to look at the percent daily value. The percent daily value is based on an average 2,000 calorie diet. So some people need more than this, while others may need less, but we're just using it as a guide. So for example, based on a person needing 2,000 calories a day, this product would provide them with 8% of their daily fiber, 6% of their daily carbohydrate needs, and so on. We can use the percent daily value to help us determine if a specific food has a little or a lot of a particular nutrient. So if something has 5% or less, that's considered to be a little, and if it has 15% or more, it's considered a lot. The last step in label reading is to make a choice about the product. Ideally, we want to be choosing foods that have lower amounts of sodium, saturated and trans fats, and higher amounts of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Just like the nutrition facts table, the ingredient list can help you to make informed decisions. It's important to note that the ingredients are always listed in descending order by weight, with the item in the greatest amount listed first. This can help you choose between products. So for example, on this slide, whole grain oats is the ingredient in the greatest amount since it's listed first. The list of ingredients is a good source of information about certain nutrients, as well as a source of information for people with food allergies or health concerns. The ingredient list is particularly important when it comes to interpreting sugar. There's natural sugars found in foods like dairy and fruits. These foods also contain a lot of other vitamins and minerals. And then there are added sugars, which essentially have no nutritional benefit. On the nutrition facts table, unfortunately, natural and added sugars are all lumped together under sugar. So how do we interpret sugar then? We recommend looking for less than 5 grams of sugar per serving. If a product has more than 5 grams, then look to the ingredient list. If sugar or anything ending in ose, like fructose or sucrose, which are essentially just other words for sugar, if you see those listed as one of the first 5 ingredients, it means that the product is higher in added sugars, and you likely want to limit how often you have it. If sugar is not one of the first 5 ingredients, it means that more of the sugar is likely coming from a natural source, which we aren't as concerned about for our health. The American Heart Association recommends that women limit their added sugar intake to 6 teaspoons or 24 grams per day. But be careful because this can add up very fast. When it comes to reading labels for salt, we can use the 5% is a little or 15% is a lot rule, or we can look at the milligrams of sodium per serving. We say that if something has under 200 milligrams, it's considered a low salt choice, and these are the choices that we want to aim for the most. If it has 200 to 400 milligrams per serving, it's considered a higher salt choice, and you want to watch how often you have these. And then foods with 400 milligrams or more of sodium per serving are considered very high in salt, and we want to avoid or certainly limit how often we have these items. Like salt, we can interpret fiber on a label in several ways. We can use the 5% is a little, 15% is a lot rule, or we can look at the number of grams per serving. So if a product has 2 grams of fiber, it's considered a source. If it has 4 grams of fiber, it's a good source. And if it has 6 or more grams of fiber, it's an excellent source. In Canada, it's recommended that women get at least 25 grams of fiber per day. When we're increasing fiber in our diet, it's important that we do it gradually and make sure that we're drinking lots of water. If you don't, sometimes people can experience side effects like bloating or changes in their bowels. So now we're going to talk more about plant-based foods. Research shows that there's a strong link between eating a plant-based diet and having a lower overall cancer risk and risk for chronic disease. Plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes provide us with lots of nutrients like fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. These phytochemicals are what give color to fruits and vegetables, and they act together or synergistically to help protect against cancer. Research also shows that too much red meat, like more than 18 ounces a week, and eating processed meats can increase our risk for certain cancers. So by adding more plant-based foods to your diet, you can automatically decrease your intake of these meats. A good goal to consider starting with is to aim for 2 meatless meals per week. It's important to note that when we're talking about plant-based eating, we don't mean that you have to follow a vegetarian diet. It just means that the majority of what you eat comes from plant foods. If you try to portion your plate like the picture on this slide, you can already see that 3/4 of your meal will come from plant-based foods, half from fruit and vegetables, and 1/4 from whole grains. It's the protein section where you can decide if you will choose something like chicken or eggs, or if you'll try to make it one of your meatless meals by using something like legumes or lentils as your protein choice. I also just want to mention that it's encouraged that you choose more non-starchy vegetables, fruits, and legumes. Starchy vegetables like corn, potatoes, and yams tend to be lower in fiber, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. This is a picture of Canada's new food guide, which was just updated in 2019. As you can see, it shows the same proportions as the previous plate. It's encouraging that half your plate be filled with a variety of fruits and vegetables. 1/4 should contain a whole grain, like quinoa, brown or wild rice, or whole wheat pasta. And then the other 1/4 should come from protein, such as eggs, fish, poultry, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, or dairy. We know that not all of our meals are always proportioned like this on our plate. Sometimes we do mixed dishes where everything is combined together, but even when we do this, it's important that we still try to aim for the Eat Well plate. For example, if doing a stir fry, choose a whole grain as the base, then add lots of vegetables and make sure there's a source of protein. As we mentioned, one of the recommendations for cancer prevention is to limit your intake of red meat and avoid processed meats. Trying to add legumes to your diet, such as soybeans, chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans, and so on, will help reduce your intake of red meat. It will also increase your fiber intake, provide you with B vitamins, and give you a great source of protein. Protein is really important for muscle function, building cells, for providing strength, and satiety or feeling full. Additionally, if you're looking at reducing your carbon footprint and your grocery bill, legumes can be the perfect fit. Now let's take a closer look at what we mean when we say whole grains. These are the grains that are the least processed, so they are high in fiber as well as B vitamins, healthy fats, and a variety of minerals. Because they're higher in fiber, they're broken down by the body more slowly and can help us to feel full longer. Some examples of whole grains include whole wheat breads and pastas, amaranth, bulgur, millet, quinoa, buckwheat, farro, wild rice, and barley. When you're reading the labels on breads, cereals, and pastas, look for whole grain to be listed as the first ingredient. Nuts and seeds are also a great plant-based food that are full of nutrition. Not only are they a source of protein and healthy fats, but they're also rich in antioxidants and contain fiber. If we're trying to be mindful of our weight, however, it's important to know that a little bit goes a long way. So a serving of nuts is considered to be about 1/4 of a cup, and raw or dry roasted are your best low-salt options. Some of you may have heard of chia seeds, but for those of you who haven't, these tiny seeds can be sprinkled on cereal, salad, and yogurt, and so on. They're a great source of omega-3 fats, which is really important for brain and heart health. And they also contain 10 grams of fiber in just 1 ounce. A healthy lunch or supper idea that incorporates a lot of these plant-based foods that we're talking about are grain bowls. They typically include a whole grain like quinoa or brown rice as the base, and then there's lots of vegetables and a protein source. The protein can come from plant-based sources like nuts and seeds, beans and legumes, or it could come from something like chicken. For more information and recipe ideas, you can visit any of these websites mentioned on the slide. The next recommendation we'll discuss is limiting alcoholic drinks. There is evidence to show that higher alcohol intake increases your risk of breast cancer. Also, many of these drinks are high in calories and can contribute to weight gain. So if you don't drink, don't start. If you do want to have the occasional drink, as women, aim for no more than 1 drink per day. And a standard drink is considered 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, or 1.5 ounces of liquor. Lastly is the recommendation to try to meet your nutrient needs through diet. Foods naturally contain hundreds of different nutrients, including cancer-fighting substances like antioxidants and phytochemicals. Research also shows that it's the synergy of these nutrients that makes a difference, meaning how these nutrients within the food all work together. Dietary supplements, on the other hand, do not contain these same nutrients. For example, when you eat a piece of fruit like strawberries, you're getting vitamin C, soluble fiber, antioxidants, and so many other substances, whereas a vitamin C tablet only contains vitamin C. Now, that's not to say that supplements don't have a role. If you've been diagnosed with a nutrient deficiency, your doctor may recommend that you take a supplement. Or sometimes they're recommended with various health conditions, for example, in wound healing. Certain age groups have also been recommended to take specific supplements. Like over the age of 50 in Canada, it's recommended that you take at least 400 international units a day of vitamin D, and that's because the skin's ability to make vitamin D tends to decrease as we get older. Lastly, some medications can cause certain vitamins and minerals to become depleted in the body, so your doctor may recommend a supplement at that time. It's important for you to be aware that many of our vitamins and minerals have what's called an upper limit. So this is the amount that you don't want to exceed in a day, or else you might experience negative side effects. And some of these side effects can be life-threatening. So it is possible to get too much of a good thing. When you are purchasing supplements, it's important that you look for a NPN or natural product number because this means that the product has been authorized for sale in Canada and it's safe and effective when used according to the instructions on the label. So we're going to end the presentation by going over a few of the most frequently asked questions. Some of you may be wondering, is it safe to eat soy foods? Well, the research actually shows that when soy foods are eaten beginning in childhood, they may help reduce the risk of developing breast cancer. For many years, there was controversy about whether women with breast cancer should consume soy foods. New studies have found that soy foods are safe for breast cancer survivors. They contain plant estrogens, known as phytoestrogens, but your body's estrogen is much, much stronger. I do just want to mention, however, that at this time, soy supplements are not recommended as they may contain a more concentrated source of plant estrogens. So until there's more research completed in the area, women are advised to avoid soy supplements. So how much soy is considered safe? The research shows about 1 to 2 servings a day, and 1 serving is equal to a cup of soy beverage, half a cup of tofu, a 1/4 cup of roasted soy nuts, or 3/4 of a cup of edamame. Next, does sugar feed cancer? So this question probably comes from the fact that high levels of blood sugar, like in the case of uncontrolled diabetes, reduces the activity of some cells in the immune system. Under normal conditions, however, eating sugar does not produce high blood sugar levels and doesn't harm the immune system. We do know, however, that sugary foods like soft drinks, candy, and desserts are higher in calories and usually lower in other nutrients and can contribute to weight gain, so they should be eaten in moderation. Is it safe to consume dairy? I heard it contains estrogen. So in Canada, hormones are not approved for use in dairy cattle, and therefore milk does not contain a significant source of hormones. And just to put the amount of estrogen in dairy products into better perspective, 3 glasses of milk contains about 68 nanograms of estrogen compared to 630,000 nanograms of estrogen that our body produces every day. So it's a very, very small amount in comparison to our body's natural levels. Should I be concerned about growth hormones in meat? So again, growth hormones are not approved for use in Canada in chickens or pigs or added to their feed. However, hormones might be used in beef cattle. One of the growth hormones used is a form of estrogen that naturally occurs in animals and humans, and any residues of these hormones in meat are very small when compared to our body's natural amount of estrogen that we produce every day. Also, residue from the hormones is thought to be stored in fat, so you can lower your intake of these residues by choosing leaner cuts of meat, so look for less marbling, and trimming any visible fat off before you eat that meat. Should I be worried about pesticides? So in Canada, pesticide use is highly regulated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and if a product has more residue than the set limit, then the agency prevents the produce from being sold. There may possibly be an association between pesticides and some cancers, but more research is needed at this time. And overall, they believe that the potential risks are not as great as the nutritional value of plant foods. So to minimize pesticide residue, it's recommended that you wash all your produce thoroughly, and you can even consider using a small scrub brush to help clean it. Another common question that we hear is, can I drink coffee and tea? Currently, there's no evidence linking caffeine to an increased risk of developing breast cancer or to its reoccurrence. For the general health, though, it should be consumed in moderation, which is defined as 2 to 3 cups per day. Some women who have painful, non-cancerous breast lumps find that they have less pain when they avoid caffeine, so it may just be more of a personal preference. I've heard that phytochemicals can help. What are they? So phytochemicals are naturally occurring substances found in plants. As part of a plant-based diet, phytochemicals may help to prevent cancer. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes are rich sources of phytochemicals, so you can include these in your diet. So this last slide is just providing you with a list of resources if you're looking for more nutrition information. The first one is a reliable link to nutrition topics and how they may be associated with breast cancer risk. The second is a website that will take you to a nutrition guide for women with breast cancer that was created by the BC Cancer Agency. The third link to unlockfood.ca is a dietitian-run website where you can find reliable nutrition articles on a variety of topics. And if you like to cook, it's also a great site for healthy recipe ideas. The fourth link can be used to find more information on Canada's updated food guide. The fifth link to the site Old Ways is where you can find information and recipes that follow that healthy Mediterranean diet eating pattern. And the sixth and last link can be used to find a dietitian locally if you're wishing to speak with a professional about other nutrition-related topics. So thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.